Tonight, as we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, we focus first on Abraham, who is the father of our faith family. What fascinates me is that Abraham is regarded as the father of our faith family as Christians, but also Abraham happens to be the father of the faith family for the Jews and the Muslims. We all hold on to Abraham as the father of our faith, and he stands out as a real model for every one of us. But how does he get that faith? That's the interesting thing. And there are two things I want to suggest that we can learn from Abraham if you study his story in the scriptures. Two things Abraham does. He talks and he has trust. If you study what Abraham says, he's forever talking to God about what's happening to him. He's childless. He's worried. He doesn't know. He said God gave him a promise. He doesn't know how to be fulfilled. So what he's telling us in his own personal experience is probably the finest way you and I can pray every day is simply just to talk to God about what's happening in your life. What are you really concerned about? That's the finest way we can pray. Just talking to God about every circumstance and situation we encounter. That's what I learned from Abraham. That's what strengthened his faith. He was able and had the ability just simply to talk to God every day. That's prayer. And the other thing is he trusted that God would take care of him. I love that second reading from St. Paul because he reviews his whole life. You know, he trusted that he would be the father of a great nation even though he was childless and his wife was barren, and yet it all happened. And then he was going to sacrifice his only son, and yet he goes on with it because he knew that he trusted God to take care of him. So two things Abraham does that I think you and I should model in our own spiritual life, and that's talk to God every day about what's going on in your life and trust him. Talk and trust. So Abraham's the first person we focus on in this Feast of the Holy Family. Then we move and shift to the Holy Family, okay? And we see that they practice their faith, which is a very good thing, and which is something we should all try to do, is to practice our faith. They go for the purification, they go for the rituals. So I think that there's some less important lessons that the Holy Family gives us about what we need to do as family. You know, every one of us is part of a family, whether you think about it or not. Husband, wife, mother, father, brother, sister, son, or daughter. What's your position right now? What are you in your family? Okay? Every one of us has a family. Grandparents, too. We put those in. I don't want to miss them. Okay? So every one of us is part of a family. How would you rate your family relationships in this past year? As we carry on with the new year in 48 hours, it's a wonderful time just to reflect on what was my family life like this past year? How would you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10? As a husband, wife, mother, father, brother, sister, grandparent. Think about that. And I would hope everybody here takes an opportunity before the end of the year is just to evaluate your response as a family member. What did you do to make your family better this past year? How did you contribute to the well-being and spiritual being of your family? You see, I think every one of us has a responsibility. And even though I don't have a family, one fascinating thing is that, I go away to live with three of my classmates for 3 months. And it's kind of like being in a family, you know. I mean, we're 4 brothers for all practical purposes. So I know what it's like to live as a brother. You know, you got to put up with them. You got to be patient. You got to be kind. You got to be understanding. You know, I think it's all those qualities that everybody has to have, okay, and that we got to work at. Ask yourself, how well did you live as a family member this past year? Spend time reflecting on that. You know what I find important, and I want to commend, I think, Our Lady of Wayside, because you have a wonderful reputation, because you have one of the strongest Christian family movements in the Archdiocese. And that is a gift that this parish community has. You need to be commended for that. And any of you who are Christian family members, you know you've done a great job. And it is a wonderful reputation that Wayside has, as such, having such a large support in Christian families. Because again, Christian families have to come together to talk about their values and their challenges. I think raising kids today is one of the most challenging things a man or woman could do. And grandparents are, I feel like a grandparent today, but you know, grandparents, you're real happy because you can look at those kids, play with them, and know you're not responsible for them, and walk out of there, you know? And you have a great time with them, you know? But you don't have to discipline them, you don't have to worry about them. Oh, that's wonderful being a grandparent, okay? Well, what kind of influence do you give them? Do they see spiritual growth in you? Do you challenge them to think about their spiritual life? Do you help them? Do you support them? Do you affirm them? Do you encourage them? Those are all really important things in family life that we need. You know, Pope Francis, the very second letter he wrote was called The Joy of Love. And it was an encyclical on family and marriage. It's one of the best encyclicals you could ever read. But remember, it's not easy to read these letters from the Pope because they're long, okay? And they can get very boring sometimes. But if you go through them, you get a lot of insights about things. And the formal title of this is called Amoris Laetitia, or The Joy of Love. But it's about marriage and family life. And the thing is, the one thing that I most remember about what Pope Francis wrote in his family observations, he said there are 3 phrases that every family should practice on a regular basis. 3 phrases. I was wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Francis says those are 3 phrases every family needs to hear on a regular basis. And I remember hearing that many years ago at a homily on the Feast of the Holy Family, and it really stuck with me. I think we all have to work at that. And I gave that talk a couple of months ago to somebody at another church on another occasion, and the wife came home and said that to her husband, and her husband said, I want to know where he learned that from. You know, because it was the first time she ever told him she was wrong, okay? But it happens, you know. I don't like telling anybody I was wrong, okay? But I want you to think about that. In your family, how often have you heard, I was wrong, I am sorry, please forgive me? 3 great phrases to enhance your family life. So this next 2 days gives every one of us an opportunity to think about family life. How would you rate yourself? What have you done to make your family a better place? Joseph and Mary are wonderful models. They can teach us a lot of things. Practically speaking, we all have a lot of work to do to enhance our families. And what will you do in the coming year to make your family even better?